Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee, and today I am very excited to talk about how to set up an AI playground or a sandbox or whatever you want to call it so that you can safely and securely play with all of these great AI tools. And I'm going to focus specifically today on large language models, things like ChatGPT. So I'm going to go through and just talk about why this is important and then how to do this step by step. Because it's astounding to me when I tell people, did you know that your data could possibly be used to train the models? And it's a reason why a lot of people don't want to, but do you know how to turn off those settings? So today I want to go through in great detail and show you how to do this step by step and therefore set up a secure place for you and your teams to be able to use these tools. So a couple of things. First of all, this is part of what I call the 3 ways to prepare. I'm doing things a little bit out of order because last week I talked about how to train your top executives, but today I realized I hadn't gone back and done a deeper dive into how to set up this playground. And today I'm going to focus much more on the playground and just a little bit on the basic guidelines. Again, those AI guidelines, because that deserves its own separate live stream, basically. And so just so you know, you can get the slides. I'm just going to put them in here at my site. And I just realized I did not put it in here today. Not so prepared as I would like to. But you can get them at, you can get the slides at charlinglee.com/AI-playground. And let me just put those in here so you can see it. And sorry for the delay here today. Again, not as organized as I would like to. So this is where you can get the slides. And I think my good friend Jay is here, and he is going to, yes, thank you, Jay, for putting that up, the link onto LinkedIn. So you can get all of these slides there. So first of all, what I'd like to do is just emphasize again that this is not an end-all be-all to everything that you need to know about the data security for all of these. So that's my big caveat about these tools. I'm going to give you some overall guidelines, but please double check yourself because these things change all the time. And also check with your data security risk, people inside of your organization to make sure that they understand what you are doing and doing so in a safe and secure way according to the requirements of your organization. So just a couple things here. Basically, you want to set up a tool that's behind some sort of firewall to know that the information you're putting up into it is safe and secure, that it's not being used to train the model, so that at some point, if somebody were to ask a question about your business, they could see the answers. So this is important if you are looking at tools like, if you're trying to use these tools for a task like developing a product strategy or thinking about writing some confidential information that's inside the company. If you're doing general research, you probably don't need to use take these precautions because the research is you getting information from the models rather than you giving information up and saying, do something with this information or this data. Now, so for example, I will use it to review copies of my writing, drafts of my writing, and give me feedback. I don't want those drafts showing up in the model, as you could imagine, for somebody else to discover. And so I want to make sure that my information is not being used to train these models. And so the models that I recommend trying are ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. And I have examples of ChatGPT and Gemini so that you can see how you can turn off chat training. Claude says they don't train the models, and there's no way that I have been able to find to turn off and make sure that everything is not being trained. But they say, we anonymize it, we never use it, just trust us. So if you trust that they're using it, then great. If you don't, then you may want to avoid using Claude. I feel comfortable using Claude. And again, I'm not putting out large amounts of confidential data. I'm using it mostly for research and to review my writing. So I feel pretty comfortable. But again, this is going to depend on your sensitivity to the use of your data and also the nature and the sensitivity of the data that you are using itself. So a couple things here. Today, I'm going to go and focus primarily on ChatGPT. And then I'll go and talk about Google's Gemini platform too, about how to turn that off. Again, I won't dive into cloud because there's no way to turn things off from what I can see. And if you know differently, please put it into the comments. I would love to know. And of course, if you have any questions along the way, please ask them. I'm constantly looking and checking to see if there are any comments coming in. All right, so let's dive into ChatGPT. First of all, you should know that there are 3 ways to use ChatGPT right now. These are the 3 plans that you can have. Obviously, there's a free version. There's a plus version that many people are on, and that gives you access to the latest model, GPT-4. And you also have the ability to just do more things with that. Again, access all the different tools available, like Dolly, to be able to do live browsing on the internet. And Team is one additional level up. Now, this is $25 per person versus $20 per person for Plus. And you have to get at least 2 people on that plan because it's for teams. You can't just buy it for one person. And very importantly, you can see what I've highlighted in the red box here. It is that team data is excluded from training by default. So that means you don't have to go through and turn everything off. It's by default turned off. So I'm going to first of all talk about how to turn off data training in free and plus, and then I'll give you a quick look at how team does it for that level. So let me just go on to the next slide. So this is how you turn off training of the model in the free and the plus plans. First of all, you go to your main site, chat.openai.com, and you click on settings, which is in the bottom left-hand corner. So I've highlighted it here. And if you're following on, you can go and open ChatGPT in another browser, go to settings, and then when in that page, you'll see it'll default to general, but you can click on data controls, and there you'll see chat history and training, and you can toggle and turn that off. Now, when you turn that off, no more of your information is going to be used to train the model. Now you have to trust GPT and OpenAI that they're doing this. But as you can imagine, there would be a whole huge amount of hot water if they didn't actually do this. So I trust them to some extent that they are doing this. But the disadvantage of doing this is that your chat history will no longer be visible to you. I don't know about you, but I like having that history so I can go back and just continue on with a particular chat that I may be having with the model. It's super helpful to me to have that. So one of the things I really like about the team level, the 3rd level, is that that is also preserved. So this is what it looks like when you go into ChatGPT for Teams. You can see here that chat history can be on, but chat training, which is right below that, is automatically turned off. There's no option to turn that on. So it is a safer and secure way to ensure that everybody who has access to ChatGPT in your team automatically has that toggle off, and your data is never used to train the model at OpenAI. Now, a couple reasons why I really do recommend ChatGPT Teams for most organizations right now. Again, this is right now as of April 2nd, 2024. Is that it has that ability to ensure that none of the data is being used to actually do something. Oh, my phone is on. And so that is really helpful to know that no matter what the settings are, everybody is going to, any data you put into it is never going to be used to train the model. So one of the ways that, again, I think it's so important to have is to know who is using these tools. And again, ChatGPT Teams has the ability to manage at a very basic level who has access to it, who's using it, and also the ability to share some shared tools like my custom GPTs. So that's the main reason why I really like it. And again, if you're not using that version, make sure you're going in and turning off all of those chat trainings inside of your settings. Now, the other key thing is that, again, you can see the chat history again, which I find to be very, very helpful. And I'll be talking about why that's so important next week. So that is ChatGPT. I just want to check and see if there are any questions. No questions right now. Okay, great. So I want to go on and go back to just talk about Gemini. This is Google's model. It is a really powerful model. I really enjoy using it. And this is what happens there. They, by nature, anonymize and aggregate data before it's used for training. So even if you don't have the data turned off, the data training turned off, they say they anonymize and aggregate data. If you've heard some of the things coming out today about incognito in Google's browser and Chrome, that it gave you the impression that the information wasn't being tracked, but it was being tracked. There are reasons why you may want to double make sure that in Google, that if there is a way to turn off the data tracking, that you turn it off. So the way to do that is you can go into Gemini apps activities and settings and turn it off. And again, if you turn that off, similar to ChatGPT, you won't be able to see a history of your chats. So let me show you how to do that. So inside of Gemini, this is the homepage, gemini.google.com. Again, bottom left-hand corner, you go to activity and you click on that. And then when you go onto that, you can see two options. You have the option to just turn off tracking, and then you can also turn off tracking and delete your past activity. The second one requires 2 steps for you to do. And I think, again, this is a very important thing to do if you are using Gemini, and this is all models of Gemini, the free version, the pro versions, they all track your data. So in every single one of those options, you can go and track it, turn off your activity if you do not want your information tracked. Again, the disadvantage is your history is gone. So they do not have that version the way that ChatGPT does for teams where you can turn off data model training and still preserve your chat history. So that's a very quick review of everything about how to set up these models correctly. Now, it's a pain in the butt because, frankly, you want to have your cake and eat it too. I want to see my history, and I want to see, make sure that my data isn't being used. And unless you're using ChatGPT for Teams, you can't have both of those things. So you have to pick and choose. For most people, the sacrifice of not having chat history is fine in order to know that the models aren't being used. But if you can find one other person in your organization to share that Teams account with, you can, for $5 more a month, know that your data is fairly safe. Now, the big caveat I would have here is that I would still, even if you have these things turned off, that the information is not being used to train the models, I still caution you from uploading sensitive information about your customers or your employees, or anything highly sensitive about your organization. The reason is less about, do you trust these models to use the data or not to use the data to train the models, but is the information in the past to the models encrypted? So unless it's SOC, SOC 2 compliant, that your data connections are secure, you don't want to be transferring your information like that over the open internet. So again, talk to your data security, your cybersecurity people, talk to your legal teams, talk to your technology teams, and make sure that the way you are using these models is correct and in compliance with the way that you have governance over the data inside of your organization. With that in mind, I think it is always super important to think about just responsible AI use. And I've talked about this before, but it bears saying again that these policies, the governance, the responsible use of AI is so important when you are setting up a playground. Now, there are more resources at this URL, bit.ly/AI-policy-resources. And what you'll find there is a deeper dive into each of these 5 areas, but also a quick look at the importance of critical thinking. Now, it's important to have these 5 areas, but critical thinking is the thing that is really hard to put into policy. It basically says, use your brain, use your experience, trust your gut instinct that if something on the screen that is being given to you by the AI tool doesn't make sense, double check it. Do fact checking. Really give yourself options. Ask the model to give you multiple options and then use your judgment to pick the one that you think is right. There is no replacement of our knowledge and experience to use this information that's given to us by these powerful tools to say, is it right or not? Because in the end, they can still be wrong. in the same way that an intern or a colleague or even an executive in your organization can be wrong. And so you want to double check things, again, with your critical thinking and experience, and also go into these 5 areas. The first 2 are absolutely sacrosanct inside of your organization. Your data security and safety and security, you can never compromise on those. So make sure you understand how those are applied in the context of generative AI. And then transparency is basically, how transparent are you going to be about your use of AI for the people who are being impacted? Will you disclose that you are creating marketing messages, using this to do client work if you're doing work for clients with AI? So being very transparent about when AI is being used and how the outputs are being used and to make decisions inside your organization. Accountability is, when things go wrong, who do you call? Who's responsible for it? And to make sure that there is a way to resolve any issues that may come up. And ethics and compliance are such an important area. And compliance, because as the rules and regulations evolve, you want to make sure you're compliant with them, especially when it comes to data privacy. And then ethics are the way that values are working with you inside your organization to help you make decisions. And I'll give you an example. One organization asked me, do we disclose that we're using AI to do our client work to our clients? Or do we kind of keep it from them because they may ask us to charge a lower rate if they know we're doing it at much better, faster ways, that it doesn't cost as much time to do this? And my response was, what do your ethics, what do your values tell you about how you should answer that question? Because there's no right answer to that. And what you'll find as you're moving into the space, that these ethical issues become even more prevalent, and we just don't typically deal with ethics when it comes to our work. So setting up this playground and an ability for people to know what is black and what is white, and what's the gray in the middle, that you have to understand and use your critical thinking skills. So responsible AI says at a base level, do these things, don't do those things. And then your critical thinking has to come into place to help you make sense of everything else. All right, let's see. We have one quick question here from Jay. The Magnificent Seven outwardly aspire to higher moral plans. Why is their default basis to harvest information that's the public desire to remain confidentially given short shrift? Jay, I can always count on you to raise up these big ethical issues about big tech. Again, big tech has a business model which is built on our data and information. And especially when it comes to AI, they have an interest in using as much of the information that's put into the data, into the models, to use it to train it. Now, I think that was one of the advantages that OpenAI had when they released their model, is that they were able to train it very, very quickly because so many people were using it. And they could see how people were using it and fine-tune that model based on the results they could see. And then people started realizing, wait a minute, what am I doing with all my data here, putting into the model? And then people were screaming, we don't want our data to be used to train the model. So they put in these data controls. So this is why I think it's so important for us as consumers, but also as business leaders, to be very active in understanding what is happening with our data, how it's being used in these models, and being proactive in saying, no, we are not wanting our data to be used this way. Give us the controls to be able to use it. Otherwise, we're not going to use it. That dialogue needs to happen from us as business leaders, having a conversation around this and telling these tech platforms, yeah, this is great, do more of this, or no, this is terrible, stop doing this. Give us the controls that we need to run our businesses. And I want to reinforce again, it is still very, very early in the evolution of these tools. And by any measure, the enterprise aspects of these tools are still really rudimentary. Now, if you want to go all the way and upgrade to the enterprise level of GPT, you can do that. It'll take you weeks to get set up. You have to put in all these integrations with the security. It's really good to have, but in the meantime, how do you start using these tools and stay safe? And that's what I really want to focus on today. I think in the long term, what you really want to do is have a secure system inside of your organization that you know is enterprise grade. It is able to do the things that you need it to do, and have it begin to do some really highly value added things like integrate into your back end of your enterprise applications and platforms. But again, it's just at the most basic level, how to set up an AI playground and stay safe. You want to make sure that you are turning off the data training models where it is available. And in the meantime, also being very, very cognizant of how you're using this data and feeding it into these models, even with the data controls turned off. And of course, you want to stay safe by having a good responsible AI policy and using critical thinking. All right, so that's what I have for today. I do want to just give notice that I am holding 2 upcoming webinars. These sessions that I've been having over the past few weeks around how to use AI inside of your organization has really, I thought it'd be really helpful to have 2 sessions. The one on April 24th, again, these are both free. The first one is really a hands-on tutorial of how to do the exercises, how to use generative AI. So invite your top executives if they would like to come and see this webinar. It's a really nice way to get hands-on. I'll be giving instructions, again, how to turn off the data training so that we can all start browsing and using these tools very safely. And we'll have some exercises in real time and be able to answer questions. Lots of fun experiences and exercises we'll be doing hands-on together. And then on May 8th would be a higher order one. This is targeted for people who are trying to pull together a cohesive strategy. And we'll be going through some of the most basic steps of this. It is the foundation for the book that Katja Welsh and I are finishing up on winning with generative AI, the 90-day blueprint for success. And we'll be talking about what are the key steps that you need to take initially to be able to set that strategy up. So again, just a little bit more advanced. The first one is more for people who want to get their hands dirty and want to learn how to use generative AI as a leader. And again, this is not to make pretty pictures that you can do or to change to write lyrics of songs. This is applying AI to your business. So I hope you join for one of those 2 ideas. I just realized I should probably put the URLs for each of them into the chat. I'll do that. Let me figure out a way to do this. So that's the first one. I'm just putting them straight into the comments. And if somebody, Jay, if you're still there for on LinkedIn, you can also put them in here too. Oh, I should have put in for the dates for them, but hopefully you can find them there. The first set is for the date on April 24th, and the second one is for May 8th. Okay, so that's what I have for today. And for next week, I'll be talking a bit more about this whole idea of treating your prompts as IP and how to do that within the organization. I'll be talking about 2 ways to do that. That's setting up internal systems and ways of using some really cool tools to say some of these prompts. But I also will be talking about how to use custom GPTs. Again, I'll be focusing primarily on using ChatGPT on how to use prompts as IP. It's a really fun exercise and really open, hoping to get some good questions from all of you about how to do that. And again, if you have suggestions and have ways that you are either setting up an AI playground, training your executives, or saving prompts as IP, please message me. You know where to find me on social media. You can email me at charlene@charlenelee.com, whichever is easiest. I would love to hear from you. What's happening, how you're using these tools to advance your business objectives. And also, again, ask any questions. I'll be sure to answer them on these live streams. Until next week, then, well, we talk about prompts as IP on Tuesday, April 9th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Until then, take care. Have fun with these playgrounds. All right, take care. Bye-bye.